The wind outside howled like 1,000 ghosts as I stared out the window, my breath visible in the chilly October air. Halloween night had arrived, casting an eerie glow over the neighborhood. I had always loved this holiday, the thrill of costumes, candy, and spooky stories. But tonight something felt different, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. As the evening descended into darkness, I decided to take a stroll through my quiet suburban neighborhood. Jack-o'-lanterns flickered on doorsteps, casting grotesque shadows on the ground. The air was thick with the scent of burning leaves and the distant sound of children's laughter. Despite the festive atmosphere, a sense of foreboding gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. I turned a corner and found myself on a street I didn't recognize. The houses here were older, their architecture reminiscent of a bygone era. Street lamps flickered and cast uneven pools of light on the cracked pavement. A chill ran down my spine, but I pressed on, curiosity getting the better of me. As I walked, I began to hear whispers carried by the wind. They were faint at first, indecipherable murmurs that slithered into my ears. I strained to listen, my heart pounding in my chest. The whispers grew louder, forming words that sent shivers down my spine. "Beware. The spirits are awake tonight." I quickened my pace, my footsteps echoing in the empty street. Suddenly I heard a rustle behind me. I spun around, my eyes wide with fear, but there was nothing there. Just the rustling of leaves in the wind. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. I turned back and found myself face to face with a dilapidated mansion, its windows boarded up and ivy creeping up its crumbling walls. The whispers grew louder, echoing in my ears as if the house itself was speaking to me. Against my better judgment, I approached the front door, which creaked open with a sound that made my blood run cold. I stepped inside, the air heavy with dust and the scent of decay. The flickering candlelight revealed ancient furniture draped in cobwebs and faded portraits staring down at me from the walls. I felt an unseen presence in the room, a malevolent force that sent panic coursing through my veins. Just as I turned to leave, a cold gust of wind slammed the door shut, trapping me inside. The whispers grew into a cacophony of voices, filling the room with a chilling chant. I stumbled backward, my heart racing as I realized I was not alone. Shadows danced on the walls, taking form as ghostly figures with hollow eyes that fixed on me. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. The ghosts moved closer, their spectral hands reaching out as if to drag me into the darkness. Desperation flooded my senses, and I mustered all my strength to break free. With a surge of adrenaline, I pushed past the apparitions, flung open the door, and ran as if my life depended on it. I didn't stop until I was safely back in my own neighborhood, the distant echoes of the whispers fading behind me. I collapsed on the pavement, gasping for air and trying to comprehend the horror I had just experienced. From that night on, I never ventured out on Halloween again. The memory of those ghostly whispers haunted my dreams, a constant reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead, and the terrors that could be unleashed on All Hallows' Eve. October nights in Hollow Creek were always shrouded in an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the rustle of leaves in the wind. I had moved to this small town recently, seeking solace from the chaos of city life. Little did I know that Hollow Creek harbored a secret, a tale whispered in hushed tones by the townsfolk, a story that would send shivers down my spine and haunt my dreams. It was a chilly October evening when I first heard the legend of the Widow's Veil. The story goes that a grieving widow, Eleanor Blackwood, had lost her husband in a tragic accident many years ago. Devastated by her loss, she secluded herself in her ancestral home, a decaying mansion at the edge of town. Rumor had it that her spirit still roamed the halls clad in a black veil, searching for her lost love. Intrigued by the tale, I decided to explore the abandoned mansion one foggy October night. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and my curiosity, I ventured into the darkness. The air inside was thick with dust, and the floorboards creaked beneath my weight. The atmosphere was heavy with a sense of foreboding. As I ascended the grand staircase, I heard a faint, mournful wail echoing through the mansion. My heart raced and I felt a chill creep down my spine. I pressed on, my flashlight flickering as if struggling against an unseen force. The walls seemed to close in around me, and I could feel eyes watching my every move. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind extinguished my flashlight, plunging me into darkness. Panic set in as I fumbled to relight it. In that moment of darkness, I heard soft whispers and the rustle of fabric, as if someone unseen was passing by. I dared not move, my breath caught in my throat. A dim, flickering light illuminated the hallway, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air grew colder, and I felt an icy hand on my shoulder. I spun around, but there was no one there. The whispers grew louder, filling the mansion with an otherworldly chorus. Summoning all my courage, I continued my exploration. Each step I took echoed through the empty halls, a stark contrast to the deafening silence that followed. As I entered what seemed to be Eleanor's old bedroom, I saw her apparition standing by the window, her face obscured by the black veil. Her ghostly figure turned towards me, and her mournful eyes bore into my soul. She raised a finger, pointing towards the window. I followed her gaze and saw a reflection in the glass, a distorted figure with hollow eyes and a gaping mouth, a grotesque mockery of humanity. I stumbled back in horror, my mind unable to comprehend the surreal sight before me. The room seemed to twist and contort, the walls closing in as if the mansion itself was alive with malevolence. I turned and fled, desperate to escape the clutches of the widow's veil and the horrors that lurked within the mansion. I never returned to that accursed place, but the memory of that night haunts me to this day. The tale of the widow's veil serves as a chilling reminder that October nights in Hollow Creek are not for the faint of heart, for the darkness that descends upon this town carries with it a legacy of fear and despair, a legacy that can consume even the bravest souls who dare to explore its secrets. The October air was crisp and heavy with the scent of fallen leaves as I set out on a solo night drive. The sky was a blanket of deep ink-black darkness, pierced only by the occasional glimmer of distant stars. My headlights cut through the night, illuminating the winding road ahead. The atmosphere inside the car was tense, my grip on the steering wheel tightening with every mile. As I drove deeper into the night, a thick fog began to creep in, swallowing the road behind me. The trees on either side of the road loomed like ghostly sentinels, their skeletal branches reaching out in the darkness. The wind whispered through the leaves, creating an eerie melody that sent shivers down my spine. I turned on the radio, hoping that some music would dispel the growing sense of unease. But instead of music, I was greeted by static, broken only by fragments of voices that seemed to echo from some distant, haunted realm. I quickly turned it off, preferring the solitude of the night to the unsettling sounds emanating from the speakers. My eyes were glued to the road, searching for any signs of life or civilization, just as the feeling of isolation threatened to consume me. I saw a flicker of movement in the distance. Relief washed over me as I approached what appeared to be a gas station. The dim lights cast long, distorted shadows across the cracked pavement. Pulling into the station, I hesitated for a moment before deciding to get out and stretch my legs. The air outside was colder than I anticipated, sending a chill through my bones. I glanced around, noticing the eerie silence that hung in the air, broken only by the occasional creak of metal or the distant hoot of an owl. As I approached the gas pump, I suddenly felt a presence behind me. A feeling of dread washed over me, and I turned slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. In the dim light, I saw a figure standing in the shadows, their features obscured by darkness. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. There was no response. I took a step back, my mind racing with fear and uncertainty. The figure remained still, watching me with unseen eyes. I quickly retreated to my car, fumbling with the keys as I tried to unlock the door. I glanced once more at the figure, only to find that it had disappeared into the night. My hands trembling, I started the car and peeled out of the gas station, leaving the ominous silence behind me. As I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The fog had thickened, reducing visibility to almost zero. I strained my eyes trying to make out the road ahead. Suddenly, out of the mist, a pair of glowing eyes appeared, staring directly at me. My heart leaped into my throat as I swerved to avoid whatever creature lurked in the darkness. The headlights revealed a gnarled, twisted figure standing in the middle of the road. Its face was contorted into a grotesque mask of pain and anger. I slammed on the brakes, my tires screeching against the pavement. The figure vanished as if it had never been there. Shaken to the core, I sped away from that dreadful place, my foot heavy on the accelerator. The fog seemed to cling to my car, distorting the world into a nightmarish landscape of shadows and uncertainty. Every rustle of leaves, every hoot of an owl, sent my imagination into overdrive, painting terrifying images in my mind. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I emerged from the fog and into the clear night. I drove until I reached the safety of my home, where I locked every door and window, trying to convince myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew that something unnatural had happened that night, something that defied explanation. And as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness outside held secrets far more terrifying than I could ever comprehend.